Hi, my name is Joshua Petrikat, your host. This is a march against gun violence. On Saturday, March 24th, I joined about 2,000 other people at a March for Our Lives walk in Huntington Beach, California. It was one of the many other marches that took place all over the U.S. and even other parts of the world on the same day in support of the huge March for Our Lives demonstration in Washington, D.C. against gun violence and for stronger gun control laws. After the horrible shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, California that killed 17 people, some of the students who saw friends die there organized to protest against gun violence, which led to these marches. These students deserve our respect and support. What really bothered me is how pro-NRA people like Tucker Carlson and some YouTubers just dismiss these students and what they have been doing because they have received help from adults and organizations that have similar views. Mr. Carlson and some others spoke about it like this was some kind of sinister plot. But I think that it's great that these students got help to organize and promote these marches. I think that would be normal at any big event, and I'm sure that Tucker Carlson and his friends would have no problem at all with that if it was for an issue that they supported. It also bugged me how they tried to dismiss all these marches by claiming that the participants were nothing but a bunch of radical left extremists. So who are these extremists? According to a poll of American voters taken by Quinnipiac University, 66% favor stricter gun legislation, while just 31% said they would not. At the march in Huntington Beach, I didn't see anyone who looked like a radical extremist. I saw regular people, students, senior citizens, and families who all seemed to think that something is seriously wrong if an unstable 19-year-old with a disturbed history and trouble with the law could easily buy an assault rifle and kill 17 innocent people at a high school. I asked some people who attended why they were there. I have a question for you. So I'm making a video and I'm curious, why are you here today?
I'm protesting against guns and for the life of our children.
So why are you here today?
I'm sorry?
So why are you here today?
To lend our support for the March for Our Lives organization.
Alright, and what I'm curious about is to what extent do you want to ban guns? Do you want to ban just assault rifles, all guns, and
Yeah, I think I'm for a ban of any weapon that's semi-automatic.
I agree.
Alright.
It doesn't have to be assault, that's just plastic. We just need to get rid of military weapons in civilian hands.
Alright, so why are you here today?
I'm here today because I have been shot at and it needs to stop.
Where?
Vegas, we're both in Vegas.
Oh really? You guys were at that?
Yeah.
Well, actually, in fact, I made a video about banning bump fire at Vegas, and I actually have a petition on my YouTube channel from change.org, and actually has 7,000 signatures. So yeah, I've been aware of this issue, so I'm really happy you guys are here today. And my other question is to what extent do you want to ban guns, like all guns or just a specific type?
To be honest, banning guns is not really my goal. Gun control is more my goal. Banning assault rifles, kids should not be able to get guns. There needs to be stricter laws to be able to access a gun. It just needs to be more difficult. You should be passing tests and mental tests, and you just need to know everything. And I think that if you want to own a gun, why do you have a problem with going through all of this? Wouldn't you be like, yeah, I want to protect our kids too. Even though I love guns, I'm willing to pass all these tests to make everyone else more comfortable.
What we have now is clearly not working well enough, so we really have to do more to protect people from gun violence. But some people don't seem to agree with that. One YouTuber stated that since most people don't trust the government, then the government can't be trusted to control guns. Just watch a bit of this.
Are you generally a person who trusts politicians?
No.
But it's a government they don't trust, so why would you ask somebody that you don't trust to take away your rights? It's insanity.
Well, the reason we don't trust the government is because we know that most of the members of Congress spend about 50% of their time just collecting money from wealthy donors and organizations like the NRA and then do what they want. That's why we have to put pressure on them so they can do the right thing. And we do need laws even though our government isn't perfect. Would we be better off without any laws? Probably not. The same guy at the end of his video has a sales pitch for these t-shirts mocking the efforts people are making for stricter gun control laws. The first shirt says ban assault chainsaws, the second one says ban fully automatic power drills, and the last one says rooted in logic. But come on, do you think that the Las Vegas shooter could have killed 58 people and wounded over 500 more while he was on the 32nd floor of a hotel about 1,500 feet away using a power drill or a chainsaw? And this is the same guy who, making fun of people who want more done to prevent gun violence, gave one of his videos the title, "Can't Ban Stupid." Isn't that just a little ironic? Mr. Tucker seems to think that the NRA is not being treated fairly.
The NRA didn't shoot anybody.
Politicians in Congress who oppose gun control legislation have received millions of dollars from them. The NRA also sued the state of Florida after Republican Governor Rick Scott signed legislation to ban bump stocks and change the legal age when you can buy a gun from 18 to 21. No one has to try to make the NRA look bad. They are pretty much doing that on their own. Another YouTuber said that since Israel and Switzerland have high rates of gun ownership and few mass shootings, it shows lots of guns keep us safer.
According to CNS News, and I quote, Switzerland and Israel have much higher gun ownership rates than the United States, but experience far fewer homicides and have much lower violent crime rates.
But that's not exactly accurate. Gun violence in Israel is so rare because private ownership of guns is so rare. According to Israel's Ministry of Internal Security, only 3.5% have permits to carry firearms and only half of them are private citizens. And in Israel, you have to be 27 to buy a gun, unless you were recently released from military service. In Switzerland, almost every male from 18 to 34 is in the army and issued a gun. They still have regular jobs and usually live outside military bases. Kind of like the National Guard or the reserves in the US. That's how their army works. Then this is counted as gun ownership, but again, that's their army. Even still, their rate of gun ownership is about half of what it is in the US. In Switzerland, if you are not in the army and want a gun, but have a substance abuse problem, or if you have a criminal record, forget it, you aren't allowed to buy one. According to their law, if you even have a violent or dangerous attitude, you can't buy a gun. And if you want to get a license for one, you have to pass a test first. It sounds like a good system, but I'm pretty sure that some people here wouldn't like it very much. I read that some people say that in Honduras they have strong gun control laws, but very high rates of murder and all kinds of crime, claiming that this shows that gun control really doesn't work. But Honduras is an extremely poor nation where they do not have a well-developed legal system or law enforcement. It has been called the most dangerous country in the world with a huge illegal drug trade, and any laws they have there mean practically nothing. When you make these kinds of comparisons, you really have to compare the US to other advanced countries that are about the same level of development. We know that in developed countries that have a similar standard of living compared to the US, such as Japan and Western Europe, stronger gun control laws have resulted in dramatically fewer gun deaths. So many studies have shown this. Just look it up. You probably have heard some anti-gun control people say that if we have stronger gun control laws that it won't help because criminals will still get guns. But better gun control laws with more thorough background checks, along with training and tests before citizens can buy a gun, have resulted in dramatically lower numbers of gun deaths in countries with these kinds of laws. And 80% of mass shootings in the US were committed by people who bought their guns legally. I'm sure that a lot of those people who were killed would still be alive today if those shooters were not able to buy their guns legally. Studies have also shown that the presence of a gun increases the risk of death. A review of the research published in the Annals of Internal Medicine has shown that access to firearms doubled the risk for homicide and tripled the risk for suicide. And even though most gun violence is committed with handguns, most mass shootings are done with assault rifles. I think that the same guy also claimed that it didn't make sense that a 17-year-old was saying that the legal age when you can buy a gun should be changed from 18 to 21.
And it is kind of funny how the left says, well, we want to turn to a 17-year-old to make the case that 17-year-olds are too immature to talk about guns. I don't know, how do they do it? How do they go through the day?
But being able to buy a gun and explaining your opinion in a public forum are very different things. Younger people are more likely to engage in risky behavior and lose their tempers. Combining that with guns could be a lot more dangerous than having an open discussion about what laws might be best. Think about this. I agree that a commercial pilot should be at least 21 years old and not 18. Since I'm a high school student, does that mean that my opinion on this is not valid and we should go ahead and let 18-year-olds be commercial pilots? That wouldn't make much sense either, would it? Tucker Carlson has said that liberals are hypocrites because Bernie Sanders had armed bodyguards at a demonstration for stricter gun laws and that regular citizens should have the same right to carry guns as them.
You can't surround yourself with an armed retinue and then tell the rest of us we don't have a right to defend ourselves.
I'm not a liberal, but let's be real, Mr. Tucker. Bernie Sanders is one of the most famous politicians in the U.S. and his bodyguards are highly trained professionals. Do most people think that we should have the right to carry the same weapons as the president's bodyguards? Probably not. Mr. Carlson also likes to mention that it is our constitutional right to bear arms.
It's about the Constitution, and the Constitution remains the same no matter who's in power. That's the point of the Constitution. The Second Amendment protects your rights to bear arms.
But the Constitution is not some kind of infallible, holy document written by gods. It was written by human beings who also did not allow women to vote, and most men actually weren't allowed to vote at that time either. The founding of the U.S. was a great accomplishment, especially when most countries were still ruled by kings. But the Second Amendment of the Constitution was written by human beings. Writing the Constitution was progress and a step in the right direction, but it was written by people over 200 years ago. But even if we accept it as is, what does it really say? Amendment 2, right to bear arms. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The right to bear arms is actually just about a citizen's militia, a military force raised from the civilian population to make the army bigger in case of an emergency. That's it. Please read it yourself. If Mr. Carlson would like to read it, I can send him a copy. I have an extra one. And what kind of emergencies do they have in mind? Well, another invasion by the British, but citizen militias were used most often to put down slave revolts years before and after the Revolutionary War. Do we still need a citizens militia to fight the British and put down slave revolts? That's what the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution was actually written for. And at that time, it took about 30 seconds to load a musket. There were no assault rifles, machine guns, or anything like the handguns that exist today. Mr. Carlson can't be taken very seriously on the gun issue because remember, he was the guy who said after the Las Vegas shooting, where over 600 people were shot and 58 died, that bump stocks might have saved lives because they make an assault rifle less accurate when it turned into a machine gun. I don't think that the 58 people who died there would agree with him. Thanks for watching. If you haven't signed it yet, please go to change.org and then do a search for my name, Joshua Petrikat, to sign the petition I posted last November to stop mass shootings and to stop the sale of bump stocks. Thousands of people have already signed, but let's keep going. Hopefully it will help make a difference. And please subscribe for updates on this and other topics. Thank you.